welcome. I'm an artist. I've been painting for over 35 years. I love what I do. I'm always looking for new directions in my painting, and I also try to tie it in and with my travel experiences. So many of my paintings are based on experiences in sports, whether it be scuba diving, whether it be snow skiing, whether it be fishing, whether it be kayaking, anything like that. I try to look for all sorts of new types of inspiration. Several years ago, I had a magical trip to Fiji, and I had just gotten certified to scuba dive and thought, gosh, I would love to do a series of paintings based on scuba diving. So I went from being certified in the Roseville Rock Quarry at Fantasy Lake in North Carolina to my first dive was a 100-foot dive in Fiji. It was one of the most remarkable experiences that I've ever had, and I immediately thought, how can I capture that? How can I bring it to life? So I started thinking about how can I sculpt a painting? Previously, I just worked with acrylics that were very flat, and I wanted to start to build them up so they were much more sculptural. On my first dive, it was a 100-foot dive, and I ran into this incredible coral wall and thousands of different types of fish, as well as different textures, as well as all of these different surfaces, and I wanted to see how can I possibly bring them to life. So I thought, I'm going to try a different medium, and that medium turned out to be acrylic modeling paste. It's also known as Impasto. It's one of the best, most interesting mediums that I've ever worked with. There's several different ways that you can work with it. For one, you can actually sculpt it as if it's a sculpting medium, which it is, or you can actually tie it in with the pigment itself. You can paint and mix the paint in with the pigment. So what I'm going to do today is show several different examples of how to use this and apply it. And let's talk about application. A normal, typical application would be your palette knife. So I have a series of different palette knives here, and I oftentimes will use all of these in conjunction with each other. Other things that I like to use, I'd like to go for the unexpected. How can I possibly bring in something that you would normally find in the bathroom? For example, a comb. How can you rake it across the surface? How could you use the tips of a brush that has a wonderful pattern to it and just keep on rolling it back and forth to create a different texture? I've always thought the best friend of the artist, other than the art store, is either the kitchen shop in a shopping center, or you could possibly go to a garden center. I've used rakes in my work, I've used garden trowels in my work, and they all have different applications. So I'm going to just go ahead and get started and show you how I'll lay this out. I'm going to use the larger one since I'm working on a larger surface here and just liberally apply this. Again, it's a sculpting medium. It's great fun to work with. It's almost like you're painting with mashed potatoes. And I just continue to layer and layer on top of each other and really spread it out. So I will do an initial application of the modeling paste to cover the area that I want to represent coral. And I'm going to work very rapidly here and then come back in and start to manipulate and to create the individual textures and patterns within it. So with this modeling paste, it has the ability to extend out from the canvas up to 1 inch and to hold that depth. And I love that sculptural aspect of it. So I'm thinking about the composition. Where do I want those incredible fish to swim within the painting? And so I'm laying out the structure and setting the environment for the canvas. So at this point, all this texture looks about the same. And compositionally, I think it works okay. I'm going to come back in with some really quick, wide open movements like this, as if that seaweed is just flowing in the water currents. And then I take a look at it, see how much I like it, come back in, and then I really start to use the palette knife. Do I lift up like that? And again, I'm working fast. I want that to create some energy and vitality in its own right. I can push this around, create large sweeping areas of larger coral. Do a layer on top of that. If I'm doing that over there, I think I'll probably try to repeat it over on another side. And again, lift, I can cut to the side. So that'll create a continuity of that sculptural medium all the way across. Then I'm going to come back over here and lift some more. Okay, so what I've done here is I've changed the textural basis for the painting. I have areas that are smooth, I have areas that are really built up, I have a lot of nice contrast within it. But the fun part is just ready to begin. At this point, I'm going to come back in, and again, using one of the unexpected tools. This, for example, is just the top of a soda bottle. And I'm going to come back in and just press into that surface and see what type of texture, what type of shape that'll create. Let's see what happens with this. Almost looks like part of an erector set. I can use the side as a scraping tool. I can actually use the holes within this to put down on top of it. Mashed potato servers are great for that. Sometimes they stand out. Oh, I love that texture right there. Look at that surface. Wow. Again, an unexpected tool. Garden rakes are great to use. Garden trowels are wonderful to use. And then one of my true favorites is the magic Ziploc bag. And what I've done here is I've simply cut a different angle off from the edge of the bag. You can create shapes into it. For example, cutting a triangular shape out of it. It's very similar, of course, to using a cake decorating kit. And this is where it really becomes fun. So I'm going to come back in, and just by changing the amount of pressure in using the bag, just spreading that out, and look what happens there. That's that wonderful string coral that's so evident all through Fiji. Might want to try using that again, and of course make sure that you have the right type of baggie. Go back in, sculpt it up, really create more texture. And that surface will take probably, I'll come back in the next day, and that's when I come back in and start to paint on the surface. So I've always felt that if it looks good in white, and if it's sculpted in white, like this one that I worked on yesterday, that it's going to look good under any conditions. So from here, I would go back in and do the color transition from dark to light or light to dark, like I've done up here, where the closer I get up to the top of the surface of the water, the lighter it's going to be. Then I come back in and do the color transition. That's stage number 2. Then I'll come back in with the actual paint where I'm creating the illusion of the coral. Then I come back in and highlight that. And the last thing that I'll do is squeeze these wonderful Fiji fish out of the bag, which is a combination of staining the modeling paste with the pigment. Other applications, I'm a huge surfing fan. I wanted to see what would happen if I tried a canvas to show the juxtaposition of the waves down at Wrightsville Beach, and then you walk 100 yards, and then you have the wonderful serenity of the sound. And I just love the fact that this texture emphasizes the power and the motion and the movement of the waves. So, that's about it for this. My name is Bob Rankin. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy the wonderful world of impasto and modeling paste.